All right, I'd like to call this meeting, regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, could I get a motion to adjourn for executive session for discussion of lease negotiations pursuant to Connecticut General Statute, Section 1-206. Marcy moves, Mike second, all in favor? Okay, we will be right back. Back to open session. We have some visitors here with us, Mr. Genovese and Mario. So we have a request for consideration of proposal to lease spaces in the Center Street lot for outdoor dining. Gentlemen.
Thank you so much. I'm David Genovese with Baywater Properties. We're the owner of 980 Post Road in downtown Darien. And with me is Mario Fontana, the co-founder and co-owner of Bodega Restaurant in Darien. As you know, and we gave you a summary in a memo that we submitted, during COVID, the town was great. P&Z, Board of Selectmen, we all worked together and allowed more outdoor dining. And Bodega, along with some others like the Goose, had outdoor seats behind the restaurant in the parking lot, which really helped get through the darkest hours of COVID. But as a result of that, you know, the demand for outdoor dining increased when people realized how nice it was to be able to sit outside. And historically, Bodega only had 3 tables in front of the restaurant, you know, right in front of its restaurant. And occasionally people would sit on the upper crust bakery side, but not so much. There's a small patio in the back, but it's adjacent to the garbage dumpster. So we've tried to make it as nice as we could, but it's still adjacent to a garbage dumpster, and it's not optimal outdoor seating. So we've asked the town to reconsider allowing us to lease that space, the 5 parking spaces from the town on a seasonal basis, to allow Bodega to have outdoor dining again. They can't, and Mario can speak more to this, but they can't invest in it and make it as nice as they would like if they're not certain that they can have this for some period of time. So we have a little bit of a chicken and an egg situation. Last year, there was nervousness and concern, and to be candid with you, I shared it. So I'm not putting this on the Board of Selectmen or Planning and Zoning. There was nervousness and concern around what increased demand for parking would look like when we were opening up the first phase of the Corbin District. And so, you know, we were nervous, and I did not come to you and push. We heard, you know, some concern, and I said those are, in my mind, justifiable, understandable concerns. But we had the benefit of the summer and the fall with all the restaurants open, and we could see that actually things were working pretty well. So we don't have those concerns now. While we're going to be building the second phase of the Corbin project, we started construction actually on December 12th. We, Baywater, were able to get agreement with a bunch of neighboring property owners to disperse some of the parking that was happening on the Corbin side of the second phase area, like for employees. We were able to disperse that to other lots around town. So the landlords, the real estate owners are working together in a really nice way, and we're all kind of helping each other just to get through the inconvenience that'll happen as we get into the second phase of construction. But we put forward a proposal to you to you know, have I think we said, 5-year agreement?
Right.
From May through October, with some consideration to the town for the use of the spaces. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mario, who can really answer any specific questions you may have.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, so just review maybe a little bit more detail. So you're talking about the spaces that are right behind Bodega.
Correct.
But if you had a long-term lease, what would you do with that space in order to make it look like you'd want it? Can you give us a little more sense of your vision as to how you'd like to make it look?
Well, when we first got the green light from the town, which we appreciate, we had to move pretty fast, and so the thinking was it was temporary. So when we went out to buy furniture, barriers, decorations, lighting, it was done with the mindset that this is temporary. You know, what we try to do with our restaurants is to make you forget for an hour and a half or 90 minutes, 2 hours that you're in Connecticut. We try to put in a little bit of escapism into what we do on the interior build out and the ambiance. We would follow that path outside as well. What I'm thinking is that for year one this year, that we would reuse most of what and sort of use the same formula that we used for the 2 years that we were out there, and then once we were open and operating, then we would start to formulate and enhance how we would approach it for the remainder of whatever the agreed upon term was. But we could do a lot more with furniture, and we called it an outdoor garden rather than an outdoor patio, because it is in a parking lot. We've found that the more that we can enhance it and make it feel like you're in a garden setting, it feels like the right direction for us. So we would go out, we would hire a designer, we would come up with concepts, we would share those concepts with whomever we had to share them with. New furniture, new furniture, barriers, plantings, perhaps. We use umbrellas now for coverings, maybe some different overhead elements, maybe a little bit nicer lighting, et cetera, et cetera. So and the furniture in particular, I don't think that we particularly have followed our what we would do on the interior with furniture. The outdoor furniture is a little bit out of context with what Bodega is supposed to be conveying to people.
So I have a couple questions. So how many seats do you have inside?
I think we've got about 70 seats.
Okay.
It's a little, because it was a cozy
Right.
restaurant before, it was a full-service restaurant. We had to work within the floor plan, and so the interior space seating is not as efficient as if we had designed the space from a raw plan. We probably would have been able to get 90 or 100 seats into that space if we had done that.
And in the past, when you had outdoor dining, how many seats did you have?
I believe in the outside we had around 40 seats.
Okay, so is the open-air dining in the attachment that you sent to us, is that the new, is that the space that you had before?
Yes, this is exactly what we had for the 2 years.
Okay, so you had 54 spaces there, 54 seats, and then this tented outdoor, is that new?
The
No, that's the little patio.
No, it's been there.
That's been there.
Okay, so that's on your space, you're not asking us for that, okay. So the 5 spaces that, the parking spaces are all in that black box?
2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. Well, technically,
One is on the side.
technically you lose that one space that's next to the tented outdoor dining because you can't back out.
That was my question. So how many total?
That's the 5th space.
That's 5. Okay, thank you. That was one of my
Okay.
questions.
That is the 5th space, okay. So you're adding 54 seats there in that open air, and then the three tables in the front, you did not have that last summer, right? The 3 tables in the front?
On the Post Road?
Yeah.
Or you
Those
did?
have been there since.
You have.
For 15 years.
Okay, so we're really adding 54 seats in total to this.
Right, the seats on the Post Road are a little impractical. They're almost there just as window dressing. They're hard for us to serve, and people don't
Right,
particularly
understand.
love sitting out front there.
Right, understand. So, I mean, my question is, where you're bringing in more people into an area that I feel is already pretty congested. And so you're going to need more parking for your patrons, but we're taking space away. So I kind of wonder if that's going to work.
Well, our experience is that, that if you're using the number 54, that, you know, a portion of those people who would have sat inside would be sitting outside. What we learned this past summer when we were using the shared patio with our neighbor, that I don't know how to explain it, but it seems like we may have spoiled people for the 2 years that we had the outdoor garden, because we had a very hard time seating people on the small patio for some reason this summer. You know, that being said, we could operate without that portion of it. So we were not actually talking about operating 2 patios,
Right,
for
okay,
instance.
yeah,
right?
because
We
you have
could
like 90,
eliminate-
you're going to have 90 seats outside.
Right, we can
so-
eliminate all of that. But like I said, you know, the peak times in our restaurants are the peak times in almost all restaurants.
Right.
Which is between 6:30 and 8:30. By that time of night, usually the parking lot behind us is there's a lot of availability in the parking lot. During the day, like I said, if it's a nice day, most people would choose to sit outside. If it's not a nice day, those people would choose to sit inside. So I think that's kind of the rationale, that when the state relaxed all of the restrictions and a lot of the towns relaxed some of the zoning restrictions, is that we all figured out that there's this kind of flow that's happening between the inside and the outside, except, like I said, at peak times, when you might have, on a Saturday night, you might have both what would happen is that the outside would fill up, and then the overflow would go to inside. Right, that's how it would
Are
work.
you open for lunch?
Yes, we are,
Okay, so this would be lunch also,
yes.
lunchtime also. Are you anticipating any entertainment outside?
Oh, no,
Okay.
Except for Cinco de Mayo.
except for Cinco de Mayo.
Have you, how late is CVS open?
Excuse me?
How late is CVS open?
You know, I'm not sure.
Depends on the night, I
Probably
think.
9 or 10.
Yeah, they're pretty late,
They're open
actually.
until 8.
Yeah.
But it's not a lot of traffic, I mean, you know, at dinner time and beyond.
Yeah, their time seems to be like
3 to 6.
yeah, something like that. That seems to be there
I think-
when there's a lot of activity there.
One thing we probably reasonably need to consider is that if this gets formalized, that the Goose would want to do something similar. So we're really talking about, you know, kind
That whole
of
strip.
2X, right? In other words, it's those guys with a similar amount of seating and similar impact on parking. So whatever that is, we ought to look at that holistically. Have you guys been in touch with them at all, or has anybody reached out?
No, we haven't talked to them. I mean, there's been a lot of turnover in the management there. They're not like that communicative around like what we're all doing. But I would say I've watched, my office is on that parking lot, so we watch that parking lot continuously. And I would say that during COVID, kind of a strange time, but I saw no negative impacts of when Bodega and the Goose both were using the parking spaces for outdoor dining, probably because of what Mario's saying. It was, people would prefer to be outside on a good day, they were inside on the bad day, so it wasn't like demand for the restaurant went up by 50% because they had 50% more seating. Demand for the restaurant's kind of what it is. And, you know, to Mario's point, I think it's really accurate. Like, when the the retail closes, the restaurants are busier. So it kind of works.
I think there's also been a shift in the mentality that, you know, the days of everybody, you know, pulling up and expecting to park right at your curb are a little bit past. And, you know, we have a restaurant in Westport. They close Church Lane during the summer months, and there's 3 or 4 restaurants on Church Lane, and they've all got outdoor dining right on the lane. There's a lot of people walking to our restaurant, parking, you know, on the other side of town, parking behind Main Street and walking over to Sconson Square. Same thing in Fairfield. Our bodega parking lot is kind of used as a municipal lot. It's
It's
a
right
private
between the
lot.
train tracks, right? I've
Yeah.
been over to that restaurant.
It's a private lot, but it's not monitored. So there's a lot of parking, and you know, our customers, you know, we've learned that you know, they're willing to walk, and I think that it's just been a kind of a shift in mentality from COVID, is that people wanna use the downtown, and they like the fact that they may have to walk and not necessarily jump out of the car and scoot right into the restaurant and then scoot back out. So, you know, we're part of the Corbin district, and you know, we're all for improving the walkability in the downtown, and this is you know, our appeal to sort of, you know, make sure that we remain cohesive with the downtown district, and you know, we think it helps to beautify the back, the parking lot a little bit too, because the parking lot behind Bodega could look a little neglected sometimes.
Marcy?
Yeah, sure. I love the outdoor dining. I was a huge advocate of going and spending time there, so I'm a supporter in putting as much as we can in town. The only concern that I have in this area, because I have young drivers and elderly parents, do you ever get concerns of somebody driving right into that? Because there is traffic that's going around in that loop. What kind of barriers are going to be made to make sure that somebody doesn't accidentally hit the gas and just drive into a pile of 45 tables sitting there?
The first year of the approval, they made it a one-way,
Okay.
the loop around.
Okay.
And the second year, I think they found that wasn't really necessary. We designed the barriers that we have now to the New York City DOT specifications for all the street dining in New York. So
They're weighted.
so
They're
they're
weighted. So there's
weighted.
a little bit of a give?
It's a little give. I
Okay.
mean, if someone's barreling down the road, there's a risk, but it was designed in New York.
No, we took precautions, and in the Fairfield restaurant, we used horse troughs and filled them with gravel and then planted them out, and so, I mean, they literally weigh 1,000 pounds each.
Sarah?
I have a few questions. First, I'd like to thank you for coming every year and asking to do this, because that didn't happen with the Goose. And so I'd like to thank you for being proactive in doing that. My only concerns are a couple things. So the space is very tight, to Marcy's point, that you know, that area is really tight. If you could stay within that frame, I guess my concern is when you put the barriers up, are they outside of the 24 by 26 or are they inside that? Because they're at least 1.5 feet wide, right? Like they're big. Like to your
They're
point.
inside. They're inside
Okay.
the perimeter that's shown here.
Okay.
So this 20-foot aisle, there's a 20-foot aisle.
Right.
That's maintained.
Okay.
And
So,
that-
okay, but you understand what I'm saying, that, okay. Because I just want to try to make sure that there's as much space outside of it for people to drive around.
You know, in a strange way, it
Slows
kind of improves the traffic flow back there, because it's all the backing out that really causes all the commotion back there.
There's
because
less.
What's that?
There's less.
Right.
of that.
There's less of the backing out and all of that.
No, it's just people that would try to go out that kind of one way where people come in for the CVS area. I did notice one year, this is my little 2 cents, it was an incredibly windy day. And I think they had kept the umbrellas down, but they were starting to catch. And I don't know if it was one of the Goose's umbrellas. One of them did take off, but I would just be cautioned to be very careful. They can become flying hazards. We're going to have more people walking around there. And not 2 years, but I think we really need to be proactive with the folks who maintain the building, the Goose.
Yeah.
Because like last year, they stayed within their footprint, but the Goose had gone out a few feet.
Yeah.
And it was, we should all be on the same page.
Yeah, if they contact us, we would make sure that that was.
Well, the
clear.
problem is they haven't though in the past.
Well, I know, but they're
Yeah.
going to have to reach out if they want to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Could you guys, you've proposed a 5-year lease term, and it would be during sort of the good weather months, sort of May through October. So for those 6 months, you're proposing $1,000 a month, so $6,000 a year to do this. Can you tell us a little bit about how you arrived at that, or any insights about your thinking there?
I had previously done a calculation for the Fairfield restaurant. It was a little different because it's private property, but we basically took a look at what the value of maybe a municipal permit was, and then we took a look at what rent we were paying inside per square foot, and we just came up with a number. The $1,000 number that I had come up with is the same exact number that we had proposed to our landlord in Fairfield, and in lieu of entering into after discussion, they found that it was too complicated to they didn't want to do a new lease or do a lease amendment, so we basically spent $6,000 every season on beautifying the parking lot. So we hired a landscape company who would come in and do the mulching, and so it was actually kind of self-beneficial as well, because instead of the money going in for the maintenance of the whole project, it was actually being used to our benefit because we were taking care of the trees and the plantings and everything that was kind of enhancing the shopping center.
And you proposed that would be at $1,000 a month for those 6 months for the duration of the 5-year term, correct?
Right. I mean, I suppose there could be some level of annual increase.
Okay. Comments, questions on that?
How many seats in Fairfield?
Excuse me?
How many seats are there in Fairfield?
During COVID, we actually had over 100 seats.
But are you doing that now?
No,
Oh, you're not doing it?
No.
Okay.
no. Now we're reduced to probably about half the size.
But that restaurant is probably half the size of Darien.
Right.
So Fairfield's, if you've been there, it's a smaller bodega.
But
So,
it's-
so like I said, when we came up with the formula for the rental formula, we kind of did it 6 different ways, and then we rounded up to get to that $1,000 number. It was certainly the cost of a $45 permit or whatever the annual permits are doesn't really reflect what the value of the parking space is. I don't think that's a fair way to look at it. So I think that we probably look at what we're paying inside for the rent, and then just take that figure and times by this, and I think that's probably around what we put into the offer.
And I don't know if this makes any sense, if it's helpful, but I mean, we're charging for the Corbin District, if someone has a second car, like, so the first parking space we give to them for free as part of their base rent. If they have a second car, we're charging $150 per month per space. So at 5 spaces, it's $750 per month, you know, but keep in mind, it's just a parking space. The tricky thing here is that you've got, basically, Mario has to invest in the design, the furniture, the decorations, the lights, and so on, and he may only have a 5-year lease. So at the end of 5 years, he doesn't really have any assurance that you're gonna, or future boards would extend the lease. It's not like a restaurant space lease, like the interior lease. Our original agreement was for 10 years with 2 or 3 5-year renewal options. So he knows he has 25 years of runway to run a business, to invest in the space. So here, I mean, if you really did the math on what he's going to spend to do this well, you know, that's tens of thousands. I don't know what your guess
Well, I mean,
would be to
the-
do this properly, but it's probably $30,000.
Well, right, I mean, the beauty of this is that every dollar that we spend would be visible to the guest, whereas when we spend money on the interior, a lot of times it's upgrading. At this point, we've been there 12 years, and now we're upgrading mechanicals. We're forced to spend money on things that people don't see.
Appreciate.
Right, so we had to spend $30,000, $40,000 outside. It would be really to create something very, very special.
So as we discussed, the other reason you guys are talking about this now and not a little bit later is it's not just site preparation, it's staffing up for this, right?
Right, I mean, we typically hire between 3 and 5 additional staff for the summer. A few of which are Darien high school kids, and we've had returning generations of Darien high school kids. It's another thing that happened during COVID. Suddenly local people started showing up for jobs. It was very interesting.
So our process here would be before, when we just gave that to them with no lease payment or anything like that, that was something the Board of Selectmen could approve. But now, since this is a lease, what we would need to do is, if we are supportive of this, vote this tonight, which would then initiate a process of creating a lease based on whatever the terms are that we finalize, and then that would go to the RTM for approval this month ostensibly. So that we'd come out of that process, they'd have a lease that's ready to go, and then sort of a piece of paper that gives them some certainty so they can move forward. Do I have that right?
Well, I think we also have to talk to P&Z, and likely they have to talk to ARB.
Yep, exactly right.
So I think, yeah, as it relates to ARB, I would say that we would probably keep it low-key just to get something approved for this year that wouldn't be materially different than last year or
Right.
2 years ago,
Well-
but then we would work on the better design, and that would be subject to ARB approval, like anything, like outdoor furniture,
Sure.
lighting, and so on.
Well, they approved this past design, ARB.
This design?
Yeah,
But this is what we did 2 years ago, right?
yeah.
Pretty much.
So you would start with that.
Yeah, but that's where we would go, so just for this year.
Right.
And then when we make the changes, we go back to ARB.
Okay. Sarah,
I would support with a nominal increase per year.
and what do you think that number should be?
I don't have a great answer for that. This is not
Okay.
my area of expertise, but I do believe some kind of increase would be appropriate, but I'm supportive.
Okay. Mike?
I'm also supportive.
Okay. Marcy?
Same.
Mark? Monica?
I'm supportive. Just clarify, is it two-way through that 20-foot path, or it's two-way?
But
We could
for
change that.
the
Yeah,
first year,
it's
they
so scary
did,
over there with
they
kids
did
coming out of
propose a one-way.
CVS and-
They did
Yeah.
make it one
They
way.
made it one way, but it didn't have to
Right.
be one way.
Right.
No?
Well, don't forget though, that first year, I don't think people you were having the
Moving around
traffic
that
you
much.
have now, yeah, because that was COVID. I would defer to the parking department, whether or not it was necessary.
So we'll ask them. Just block the whole
Right.
thing off so you can't even go around that.
I mean, if it was
corner.
one way, I
Right?
would, I would be much more supportive if it was one way.
I think it makes better sense if it was one way also myself.
And especially if the goose doesn't want those spaces,
Yeah.
you don't want people backing out. and-
Yeah.
Somebody coming around the corner and
Correct.
blaring horns with diners there. And
As it is, the fact that it's 2 ways right now is like scary.
Yeah, it's 20 feet is not very wide, as
Yeah.
we are not
All
very
right,
familiar.
so I'm certainly supportive of this. I know I spent too damn much money at Bodega eating outside, so, 2 years ago, and I'm kind of curious, Kate, what should we vote on now?
Nothing.
'Cause nothing?
And I think we've got a sense of the board that they're supportive, so I think we want to get the lease
So we'll get the
going.
lease, yeah, we'll get the
and,
lease drafted, maybe.
Talk to P and Z.
We'll talk to P and Z, we may fiddle with these terms a bit with a small escalator or not, let's see. And get those terms over to you guys to make sure you're okay with that. And then to your point, P and Z and ARB, just to get them a heads up on this, you guys may need to go before those boards separately and talk about your plans. And let's see if we can get all that kind of coordinated so that by the time we get to the RTM meeting later this month, is that the 24th? What day is that?
We're not getting to them this month.
We would not get it to them.
The rules is meeting tonight, so you're not getting anything on, so it'd be February.
Oh, that should be okay. Anyway, so that gives us time to sort all of that, get something to you, make sure you're okay with it. And then collectively, if we, with these other boards, everybody's fine with it, that goes to the RTM in February, and then you're good. Does that work?
I just want to say I support what Sarah says, that there should be an escalation.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else? Gentlemen, thank you for coming.
Thank you for
We
coming.
appreciate it.
Thank you, I really appreciate it.
We appreciate having good restaurants in town, so keep doing that.
Well, have a good year, everyone.
Okay. First selectman report, let's see, a couple of things. We have kicked off the budget process, so we've begun meetings with the individual department heads, which Kate is leading, and we are partway through that process and should have that wrapped up. The Board of Selectmen will begin its budget meetings to discuss everything they're working on internally right now on the 29th, and all those budget meetings are on the town website, and of course, they will be public. I had a chance on January 3rd to attend the Westcog Board meeting, executive meeting up in Ridgefield, where I am serving as treasurer of that organization. They're very, very tied into state and regional affairs, which you'd kind of expect, but you sit there with the staff and listen to their expertise and just perspective on everything that's going on a regional basis. It's quite impressive. They are on top of that. This is a good organization for us to be part of, and not just be part of, but to be active in. I know Jamie and Monica both spent a lot of time with them, and I will continue in that role and in capacity as treasurer to see if I could help them. But a good use of our time as a town to provide some leadership help with that. So I got a lot out of that. I had a chance to teach a law and government class at the invitation of Mr. Mark Stepsis, who is a teacher over at Darien High School for that class. He invited me to come over, and I spent an hour talking to that group. They had a lot of good questions, and I just wanted to say thank you for that invitation. I think I get to go again in the spring. But that's just a reminder that we've got a great school system with a lot of motivated people. And I don't recall having a law and government class when I was in high school, so it was very cool to go be part of that this past week. But those kids are terrific, and Mr. Stepsis is as well, so thank you for that. This past Friday, we had an Eagle Scout ceremony, and this one was in Norwalk, because one of a Darien student here, Katari Daly, is a member of that scout troop over there, and there was a boy from Norwalk who was also getting his Eagle Scout, and so both Tracy Mara and I were over there, and as I've said a few times, it's really great to be part of those events where you not only get to meet the Eagle Scout award recipient, but also the family and the friends and all these people that worked to make that happen. It was fantastic, and it was a privilege to be there. I'll certainly go to those in the future. Let's see. We have a storm coming. We had a big snowstorm here over the last couple of days, but there is another storm coming tomorrow, and the reports that I'm getting, we've gone from monitoring the storm, or at least the Eversource reports, to where their operational status at noon today was warning. This is going to be a storm of probably a lot of rain in this area, just given the temperatures that we're seeing right now. But they're talking about the potential for this storm of having not just 2 to 3 inches of rain, with some snow up in the northern part of the state, but sustained winds of 16 to 35 miles an hour and peak wind gust scenario of 45 to 50 miles an hour. So this is not a hurricane or anything serious like that, but this is not a trivial storm. We are going to stay on top of it. Eversource is on top of this. Public Works is on top of this. Everybody's paying close attention, so I would just remind everybody to stay safe, make sure that you call in if you need help or if anything has come down, like trees or that sort of thing in your yard. But we are here to provide assistance, and we'll do our best to stay on top of adequate communications for everybody. So stand by with town website alerts, email alerts, and social media alerts, and we will keep you posted on that. Later this month, we have a department heads meeting. It's our next meeting, correct?
Yes.
And one of the things I'm going to talk about at that meeting is just it's really for the board here, is to talk about some ways to simplify the reports that they prepare. I know a lot of people spend a lot of time on those reports, and I think I'd like to just experiment with maybe a few ways of delivering those reports. One vision I had, which we can talk more about at this meeting, is to simplify the reports to where they're focused on a top 5, right? Top 5 things they're working on. It could be things that they're most focused on or worried about. It could be bottlenecks they're facing that are preventing them from doing what they need to do or would help if they could have. And I want to have a little bit of time reserved in the department head meeting in a couple weeks just to have a discussion about ways we could simplify that to where we could have a much more interactive dialogue than I think we've been having in the past, and also just reduce the amount of work that these individuals have to prepare for these discussions. The one department I'm a little worried about in that regard is Gentiles department. I've noticed in your reports you've got a lot of pictures, and quite frankly, your world lends itself to sort of photographic review so we can see what you're talking about. So we may have to make a few exceptions here and there, but I think for us,
Pictures.
we like pictures, and I can barely read.
There's a
so
lot going on in Ed's world.
There's a lot, and I like.
Support Ed's report.
So at the same time, let's figure out a way to make this more efficient, but also much more interactive. It's when we get a department head gets up and says, "I've sent you my report. I have nothing to add. Do you have any questions?" And we got a lot of. It's just kind of it doesn't feel like an interactive dialogue, and I would suggest that maybe we just experiment with this a little bit to see if we could make these reports more interactive, more interesting, and more helpful to these department heads. So more to come on that. We did not have an OPC meeting this month, and I will work to get that scheduled, so the next OPC meeting will be in February, but I will focus on doing that and getting that schedule sorted for the rest of the year then. That was all I had in my report. Kate?
Well, my life is pretty much budgets right now. But we do, as you were all notified last week, our Parks and Recreation Director is leaving to go become the Parks and Rec Director in her hometown, cutting her commute from like an hour and a half to about 10 minutes, not even 10 minutes, I think 10 minutes walking. So we've already posted the job, so we've already begun the search for that. So we do have that going on as well. And before long, we'll be starting up negotiating with the town hall union.
Yeah, I would just add to that, Pam Gary is our Parks and Rec Director. How long has she been in that role, Kate? 8 years?
9 years, I think.
Years. She's terrific and has added more energy than I think any of us have put together into her function. She is bright and vivacious and program focused, and really, for all the time she's had that job, has really tried very hard to bring fresh energy to that important function in town. And you can feel it when you go to our parks. You can feel it when you see the programs. You can feel it when you look at the sheer numbers of people who sign up for these programs now. It's amazing. So we definitely will launch an active search and find the next great person for this role. But I just wanted to have a shout out for Pam. She's done a terrific job. I'm certainly very appreciative, and I suspect you are as well, if you had anything to add.
Absolutely. I think she brought fresh energy. I always appreciated her kind of her eye towards the business side of the Park and Rec Department, and her ingenuity for creating programs, and for just running a really great department as far as personnel goes. So
Yeah.
she'll be. I appreciate you know, it's an hour and a half one way, so she drove 3 hours a day for this job, which says a lot about how much she liked working here, but everybody, I'm sure, can understand, you know, what a toll that takes.
Yeah, as someone who's gone from a 2 hour and 2.5 hour commute myself to 4 minutes,
You can speak to this.
I'm highly empathetic to the decision to do that, but Godspeed, Pam, we appreciate your help. Kate, anything else from you?
The town hall suffered a loss on Christmas Day. One of our longtime employees, Lisa Mason from the building department, passed away. So I just wanted you all to know that as well.
Yep.
Hear that.
Sorry.
Okay, well, peace and grace to her family. I know that was a loss, not just for Town Hall, but particularly for the colleagues that work with her. She was a longtime fixture here, and it was a sad situation, but we're certainly appreciative of all the support that Town Hall and the individuals in her department provided her over the time period where she was having trouble. And then just the outreach to her family, which we will maintain. There's going to be a memorial service
Memorial
at some
service
point.
at the end of the month.
At the end of the month, and you know, I look forward to seeing as many people from the Town Hall participate in that as possible. So we will definitely arrange that, but thanks for bringing that up. Okay. Board liaison reports, Mr. Burke.
The next blight review board meeting will be Valentine's Day, February 14th. So we had one scheduled for this Wednesday, but due to quorum issues, it was adjourned. So the next one will be February 14th.
Okay, terrific. Marcy.
Sure. Oxbridge Building Committee meets next Thursday, so I'll get an update on seeing how things went with the slide and whether or not that transition to taking that out and putting in some grass worked. The Mental Health Task Force is meeting as an entire group on this coming Tuesday, 10 o'clock in this room, and that's where we're going to go with decide what our programming is going to be for the course of the spring and going into the summer. And just a big update on February 7th and 8th, Ally Ramsack is going to be hosting a mental health task force, mental health first aid training. They've done this several times, and she's going to be giving another class. She'd like at least 10 people to join. Last time they had to cancel it because they didn't have enough people registered, but it is really, really valuable to anybody who has not taken this. I highly suggest that you do. It is, again, I think February 6th. I just lost my February 6th and 7th. It's 2 days.
6th and 7th.
6th
What are
and
the
7th.
times of the?
It's like 8 a.m. to noon, I think.
Yeah. Sorry, I have the flyer open and it just,
And it's here at Town Hall, or?
No, it's at the
I-
Post.
it
Is that- oh,
posts.
it's at the Post.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
8:30 to 1.
8:30.
8:30 to 1, both days you have to attend. And at the end, you have a 3-year certificate in mental health first aid training. So,
That's pretty important. As I said in my State of the Town, mental health is an ongoing crisis nationally and an ongoing concern locally. And so if you have a chance to attend, I'll certainly look at my calendar to see if I can go, but thanks for letting us know that. That's great.
sure.
Okay. Monica?
Kate, how long is Ally's credit? How long is she able to do this? How many years?
Well, she has to continue to offer the classes in order to keep her certification. So
Right.
she has to offer a certain number, teach a certain number every year to keep the certification. So
Okay. So she
I
has.
think it's a year at a time.
Okay. So it's number of classes, it's not number of people,
No,
it's number of classes.
but I think to make it worthwhile, there you need to have a
Right.
certain number of people.
Right. And is Cynthia also accredited?
No,
She's
Cynthia, no, but Paula Sutliff,
Yep.
our public health nurses,
not. Okay.
and they run them together. You don't have to have 2 people running it, but I think they feel the burden is
Yeah.
less.
Yeah, I would think that makes sense.
Okay.
So for Great Island, our last meeting was December 20th, but we have been active since then. We have submitted our plans for 23A to EPC, the ARB, and P&Z, and EPC met on the 3rd, right, Ed? You and Ed was there. Thank you very much, Ed, for being there. So they accepted our application. They did not request a public hearing. So there will be a public hearing on planning and zoning side, but not on the EPC side. So the next meetings there are ARB will meet on the 16th, EPC will meet either on the 18th or 24th, planning and zoning will also meet on the 18th, and then the public hearing for planning and zoning will be the 30th. And our next, Great Island's next meeting is next Wednesday, 6 o'clock in this room.
Okay, great. Sarah?
The Thriving Youth Darien next meeting is on January 18th on Zoom, so I will report after that. And there is no current scheduled HHR meeting. We will have our next once we hear the decisions from the RTM, but we are hopeful, and I know we have it on the agenda tonight.
Yep.
Our committee will be here soon.
Okay. Kate, any public comments?
No.
Okay.
That was just,
Speaking of.
Wow.
I know.
that-
I just said,
Right
oh,
on
our
time.
committee will be here soon.
how did
And
you
you
do
It's
literally
like
walked in.
magic.
That was something.
While they're getting settled, we have one thing we can do under new business. So discuss and take action to authorize the first selectman to sign the neglected cemetery grant.
Right, so we did this a year ago or so when Monica was first elected. And the state will not let us have a resolution that says the first selectman, no name. We have to name the person in the resolution. And in order to be able to now submit the expenses for reimbursement, we have to update the resolution allowing John to submit for the reimbursement.
how much money are we looking at?
It's $5,000.
It's like 5,000, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Per year?
They don't offer it every year.
Okay, anything further on that, Kate?
That's it.
Okay, could I get a motion to authorize the first selectman to sign the neglected cemetery grant? Sarah moves, Mike seconds, all in favor? All right, thank you. Okay, so we need to discuss HHR, so we've got 3 related items. Discuss and take action on a request to increase the appropriation and bonding authorization for Hindley Elementary School, Holmes Elementary School, and Royal Elementary School. We're joined by the Chairman of the Board of Education, Chris Price, the Chairman of the HHR Building Committee, Dr. Alan Adley, the Superintendent, and David Martin from the Board of Finance, and of course, the ever-present Ed Gentile, on whose plate many of these happy tasks fall. Ms. McCammon.
Thank you. I'll invite Chris to join me up here. So, we are before you. We've given you our long discussion of why we continue to believe these to be valuable projects, why we're excited to have them up and running. Alan spoke just a few minutes ago very cogently about providing, we were downstairs in RTM Education, about what these projects provide us in terms of being able to provide equity in the educational experience and the quality of our buildings and in our general programming. So we continue to support them. There's been a lot of robust debate. We're happy to answer any more questions if you all have them.
Yeah,
Chris, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, and the only other thing I would add is we got the request from Board of Finance for a number of follow-up materials. Dave Martin worked extraordinarily hard pulling that together. I think one of the things that's probably the most helpful is he did a narrative of how the project went from its very, very preliminary estimates to where it is today in terms of the funding request. We've tried to put together some more detail behind all the reasoning behind the increased funding request. So that's the one thing we hadn't discussed with you when we were before you a couple weeks ago. So that's new material. If you had any questions on any of that, we're certainly in a position to discuss if you'd like.
Yeah. David, did you want to say anything about any of that, or? No, all good, okay. So as a reminder, as a process point, we have sort of 3 phases of this approval to go through. At this meeting, we would have a vote of the Board of Selectmen to be supportive of what's being asked. And just to be clear, what we're talking about here is an incremental appropriation to cover the higher amounts that have surfaced through this revised bidding process that Chris and others led. It's 19 million.
19.2
2 million, thank you. Once that's voted on, the Board of Finance is going to continue the discussion, and they're going to consider that next week. And they will vote it through their board meeting at that time. And then the final step would be the RTM meeting later this month, in which case they would be voting on a formal appropriation to cover that money. Once that formal vote is done, then the committee can go forward. They have appropriated funds at that point. Yes, no?
Technically, they have to wait 10 days.
I'm sorry, yes, correct. So they have to wait 10 days. Following that 10 days,
Correct.
They then have appropriated funds and can go out and engage these contractors to get those projects started. So that's where we are at the moment. There has been an ongoing debate, as we know from last time, about sort of the renovation process that's been proposed versus whether any or all of these schools should actually be rebuilt from new. We went through an iteration of all that, as I said publicly, and maintain now I'm supportive of the renovation program that they've proposed. There's still ongoing discussions about that simply because it's not an obvious decision that you go entirely the renovation route, but it's a good decision and one that certainly I remain comfortable with based on what's been provided to all of us and what I've seen in presentations to date. So that's where I am. Does anyone have any questions for these folks?
I do.
Monica, please.
So I just want to understand, so from a process point of view, we're being asked to take another look at this, and
Yes.
Board of Finance will take another look at it, and then
Correct.
RTM will take another look at
Yep.
it. Does the Board of Ed ever take another look at this? At this, is that required or not?
This is, you're talking, what you're approving in the other two bodies is the appropriation and the bonding resolution, and that's not a function of the Board of Education for a construction project.
Yeah, what their process was to go through and vote the ed specs and to put the committee in place to translate those education specifications into a project. And once all that was done, it went through this process. It just so happened that it got overbid or more bid than what was, a bid out more than what was originally appropriate, which is why we're having this discussion. As far as whether the Board of Education has taken or intends to take an opportunity to rethink or just reconfirm any of these specifications, I don't know. I'd have to let you answer that, Jill.
The Board of Education voted on the design of this project back in January a year ago. So, as far as the Board of Education is concerned, the price has changed, but the project itself has not changed. So barring any sort of, change in circumstance that the town wishes to use the land differently, that it believes that from a policy perspective, that building new is better than renovation, or that the financing is just not appropriate, or that there's a better model, that would have to come from one of your boards. But otherwise, as far as the Board of Ed is concerned, there is nothing to contemplate. And this, I think for that reason, the resolution is structured as it is because this is outside of our authority.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that in my own mind. There's a material change, but it's not to the scope of the project, it's just to the cost.
Correct.
And the Board of Ed wouldn't weigh in on that. Okay.
Correct.
Interesting, okay.
Sarah, any comments or questions? These are big numbers.
I'm entirely supportive, obviously. Knowing that this is the town building committee, I think that's why this process exists the way it is. But no, I'm 100% supportive and have appreciated all of the work that has gone into it. Particularly in the past week, I've appreciated the response from KG&D, able to get back with the information that was requested. So,
Yeah. Marcy, comments, questions?
No, I guess, the last time that we spoke, there were sort of two different options. There was like the 60% renovation and then the 80% renovation, right? What did you do? I don't remember what the numbers were or something.
Yeah, I think there's the renovation that's the current plan, right, which is between new build and renovation, 70% of the schools
70%,
are going to be
okay.
touched. And then when we first raised the fact that this was costing more money than we had contemplated, we were asked, gee, are there other options, right? Our architect in particular was asked, think outside of the box, what else could we be doing? How else could we approach this project? And one of the ideas that they came up with was, well, we could do a more fulsome renovation. We could go from 70% to closer to 85, 90, 100%, or in effect touch every part of the schools, things like gymnasiums, bathrooms, cafeterias that are not being touched as part of this renovation. While that is incrementally less than a brand new rebuild, it would still, for purposes of kind of our committee and what our jurisdiction is, it would still be in effect stopping what we're doing, going back to the Board of Education and having them consider whether they want to rewrite the ed specs.
Okay.
And it's, in effect, it's a new project, right? It's the
Yep.
same, it's not at the same scale as a new rebuild, but it's process-wise, it's the same thing. It's going back and starting again and saying, I mean, it is conceivable, we haven't really thought about it, we haven't analyzed it, but it's possible that you could append it onto the back of this project. It's still a new project, but it's in effect an add-on to this project.
We'd have to go back, redraw,
Yeah.
rebid.
Not a trivial
No.
thing.
And time consuming.
Right. If you were to stop and rescope,
Yes.
you know, then you are years down the
Yeah.
line. You could, again, encapsulate the scope into a smaller project and add it to the back of ours. We're not here asking for that. That is just what that option meant.
Michael?
Yeah, I really haven't heard any new fact or reason to change my opinion from a few weeks ago when we last discussed it. So I'm still very supportive of this plan.
Okay.
Jill, could you go through the timing again on where we are now?
What's going to happen?
Yeah.
So shovels in the ground this June.
Right, yeah.
And then, shovels in the ground this June, a lot of heavy work in the summer. And then there will be, and then we finish in time for the school year of '26.
Okay.
So it's about a 2-year and change project. And the length of time has to do with the fact that there will be construction in fully occupied buildings. So there are certain types of work that happen during those summers, and there are other types of work that happen, either in small areas where students are cut off, or in the overtime hours.
Right. Well, I'm sure I just reiterate what everyone said. I know that you have spent a tremendous amount of time on this, your whole committee has, and we're really, really appreciative.
Thank you.
Okay, so we need 3 separate votes on these?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so,
There are 3 separate projects.
any other questions before we do that?
Thank you for your support.
Yeah, just Chris particularly, I mean, yeoman's work, but really, I mean, all of you guys, Dr.
Both of you.
Adley, David, all the additional work that you did, it's
Yeah.
just, it's phenomenal, it really is something,
Thank you.
and you set an example for everybody, we appreciate it. Okay, could I get a motion to approve recommendation to the Board of Finance, a resolution to increase an appropriation for the planning, design, and renovation of the Hindley Elementary School from $27,550,000 to $33,479,045, and to authorize the issuance of bonds and notes to finance the appropriation in the amount of $33,479,045. Sarah moves. Mike seconds. All in favor? Okay. Approved. Number 2 of 3. Can I get a motion to recommend to the Board of Finance a resolution to increase an appropriation for the planning, design, and renovation of the Holmes Elementary School from $25,600,000 to $34,003,800, and to authorize the issuance of bonds and notes to finance the appropriation in the amount of $34,003,800. Sarah moves, Marcy seconds, all in favor? Okay, and then the final one. Could I get a motion to recommend to the Board of Finance a resolution to increase the appropriation for the planning, design, and renovation of the Royal Elementary School from $29,100,000 to $34,007,890, and to authorize the issuance of bonds and notes. That's a
We
typo.
are caught that, not in time for this packet, but
Clearly.
everybody else got it.
And notes
Draw a page.
to finance the appropriation in the amount of $34,007,890. Sarah moves.
I'll second.
Monica seconds. Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Thank you, friends. We appreciate it.
Good luck.
Okay. Next up is some parking authority business. Discuss and take action on a request to transfer $30 to Darien $30,000 to the Darien Railroad Station platform shelters. Kate.
Now, Ed,
Ed. Who are you again?
I was just hanging around, so I figured I'd take the opportunity to speak. Ed Gentile, Director of Public Works. See the transfer in front of you. First, I want to apologize for having to come back and ask for more money. That's not the way I generally go about my business. But as I tried to explain in the transfer, the confirmed price that I put a PO in for and sent them, a shelter company, was obviously not their final price. So they sent me back a revised one. I did, in this transfer, at the suggestion of our town administrator, put in the total cost of the entire funding that I had asked for throughout the years. And just so you know, the total cost for these shelters right now are $237,000. There's 4 of them that'll be coming.
So was any of the cost of these shelters paid by the state, or is that all town funding?
The arrangement that we had was to purchase them and have them delivered to the site. They are going to design the platforms and install them. That was the arrangement that we came to.
Okay, so the cost of installing the shelters, the state's covering all that? And
Correct.
we're just covering the purchase of them?
Purchase of them and the delivery,
Okay.
which I found out to be actually almost as expensive as one of the shelters.
Really? Okay. And are these like the ones in Roden Heights, which is a glassed-in area where you can be out of the elements?
That's correct.
okay.
20 feet long, 10 feet wide.
And they're all on the inbound side?
There's 3 on the inbound side, 1 on the outbound.
Okay. Questions for Ed about this? Okay. Motion to approve the request to transfer $30,000 to the Darien Railroad Station platform shelters. Mike moves, Monica seconds, all in favor? Okay, Ed, thank you.
No,
Yep.
thank you very much, appreciate it.
Okay, next up is discuss and take action on a request to transfer $11,000 to Parks and Recreation Facility overtime. Kate?
Yeah. So we had approved in the budget, in the facility and repair account for the Parks and Rec, money for them to remove invasive species, plants at the parks. They found they were able to do with staff, but it did require some overtime. So rather than hiring an outside service, we had staff do it. So basically, we're paying it from a different account than we had originally intended. So we're moving the money from where it was budgeted to where we paid for it.
Yeah, I mean, you read through it, it looks like it's overtime, and we got to get this kind of work done, and they're well
Yeah.
suited to get that
And
done.
we had planned on it,
Yeah,
but rather than hiring an outside service, we did it in-house.
yeah, seems
Can I
better.
just say that I'm liking the whole beginning bit. I like that. That's very helpful to understand.
Well, that came from the questions that
Yes.
Monica had at the last,
It's
so Jen and
incredibly
I,
helpful.
yeah, we might,
Short of us
I kinda
logging into
did this on
OpenGov
the-
and trying to
yeah.
figure out what's going on. Yeah, no.
I did this on the fly the other day as I was putting the agenda together, so we might change the
Well, I'm
layout, but the
happy with
intent
it.
is
Thank
I would
there.
you.
agree with Sarah, it worked well, so it's just nice, so, okay. Any questions on this? Motion to approve? Monica moves, Sarah second, all in favor? Okay, thank you. All right, last up is the minutes. I had lots of edits to the minute, there's
There's a few typos. huh?
some typos in board liaison reports. It said just 9 of which are in the fine stage, it should be final stage. And just this, on the other page here, I know
I
there's
wonder
missing
if I
words
didn't
in the new
actually-
business. It looks like
Yeah.
it's not unedited, there's something wrong with all that. Can I just
Okay,
go through this?
that must not have been the
The final
actual
version.
final version,
Yeah.
so.
All right,
How about we don't, we
Yeah, maybe
table
we'll-
that?
We can
All
put
right.
off, yeah.
we'll fix these and come back to you next time, so, okay.
Yeah, you're right. There were-
Yeah, it would be more like fine accrual stage, because those properties are accruing fines, which is why, I mean, it's the right word, but it could be more clear, and that might not be the way that I said it, it might be right from the tape.
That's helpful.
But that's, I probably said they are in the fine stage, which means they are accruing fines, as opposed
Okay,
to
fair point.
fine in the more positive sense.
All good.
Under HHR, there's some.
Oh, my God. Yeah, those are definitely
let's
not,
put these
those
off.
are the
These are not
raw,
the these are the raw
minutes,
notes,
yeah.
so, anyway, we can
And I've got
fix
a-
My
that.
apologies.
Okay. Agenda review. Anyone have anything for agenda review?
I would like to ask, I wasn't sure where to ask in this, when will we be given access to the budget?
Let's see what the calendar is.
Because I love advance notice, which allows us to kind of go in there.
So I think we finished meeting with departments on Tuesday?
Tomorrow, okay?
Nope, sorry, Thursday, because we don't have Ed until Thursday. So my hope would be, we start meeting on the budget on the 29th, so my hope would be to have it to you by, like the 22nd,
Please.
so you have a week.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, great idea. Okay. Other questions or issues on, for agenda review? Okay. Could I get a motion to adjourn? Sarah moves. Marcy second. All in favor? We are adjourned at 8:40. Thank you, friends.